So, an astrological chart then can describe the different tendencies within human beings, and having an understanding of what those tendencies are can be quite useful, because just being able to articulate the dynamics of your own being and the paradoxes of ourselves. There are many different ways of doing this, of course: psychotherapy, psychoanalytic psychotherapy, psychology, Zen Buddhism, different spiritual pathways. There are lots of different ways of finding out about who we are, or rather, finding out ways of looking at who we are. So all of these things to me seem to be like different languages or different ways of wording the same kind of thing, really. And astrology can be useful for people who aren't necessarily well versed in psychology. So you don't have to talk about the ego and the id and things. You can talk in normal English. So it can be a useful thing. It's also quite disconcerting sometimes to find that a stranger is telling you about these things. I remember talking to someone once, and I just finished describing her relationship with her father, and she said, "Everything you've said about my dad is absolutely bang on. I get that. He's this, he's that, we're like this, we're like that. I project that onto other men. I expect other men to be like that with me. When they're not, I think they're weird. When they are, I think, oh God, here we go again." Right? I get that. That's like psychoanalysis to me. But what I don't get is how you get that from rocks in space. A stranger can sit there and tell me about the stuff that's happened between me and my dad and how I feel about it and the ramifications of it and the effect that has on my relationship with my expectation of all other men that I meet, teachers, policemen, everything. But how you get that from rocks in space, I can't quite get. Then you can say, well, no, we don't quite get it either, which is why we're still researching it. But whether we get it or not, the thing is that the phenomena is there. And that's part of what makes it useful, not necessarily as an instruction booklet for what reality is, but rather a guide for how to draw the best from our realities, and so possibly have an easier experience of life. So the different planets in an astrological chart represent different parameters or parts of us. The signs of the zodiac they're in tell us something about how these things come out. So Mars, for example, will express itself in Aries. It will express itself in an Aries way, in Taurus in a Taurus way, in Gemini in a Gemini way. And what I mean by Mars is the expressiveness of the person, right? So the expressiveness of a person is inclined to come out or find a manner of expression in an Aries-like manner, coincidentally or synchronously, when a person is born when Mars is moving through Aries. It's not Mars that's making them express themselves that way. It's their own tendencies of expression that seem to come out in impetuosity or courage, etc. So by looking at the signs of the zodiac that different planets are in, we get an inference of the manner or style in which a different facet of the person will express itself. Okay? So essentially then, a planet shows you what is happening, and a sign shows you the manner in which it is done. So you are not a sign. It is the manner in which it is done. It's a bit like saying all theatre spotlights are white. Okay? Every theatre spotlight is white because light bulbs are white. But what they do is they put a coloured gel on the edge of it, and when the white light is filtered through the coloured gel, then you get a red light, a blue light, a green light, a yellow light, and so on. It's not that the light is changed colour, but it's being filtered through something. So likewise then, if you think of a planet as representing a thing that a human being does, an activity, whether it's planning, dreaming, thinking, speaking, and then the sign of the zodiac is like the colour filter that then modifies how that planning, thinking, or speaking, or dreaming, or creativity is done. Okay? So when someone says, you are a sign, what sign are you? They're basically saying, what colour are you? What colour of perceptual lens mostly describes you? It's a crazy question. It's bizarre. And it's perpetuated by this kind of media thing. Anyway, so back to the sophisticated, proper, accurate stuff. So a planet represents different functions of human experience. The sign of zodiac they're in shows in what way these things will come out. And there is another part of this wheel, this middle wheel in an astrology chart, and you'll notice they're boxed into sections, and each one has got a little number, so it's from 1, 2, 3, and so on, right round to 12. And these boxes in astrology are called houses. And houses represent different fields of life experience, like contexts. Right? So, for example, if there was going to be a fantastic play in the West End of London or Broadway, and it's The Life of You. The Life of You on a Broadway stage. Fantastic. So we got complimentary tickets for the premiere. We all get in a bus and a coach and we drive down to the theatre, pining through the doors of the theatre, and we find a round circular stage with the actor or actress that's playing you, obviously very good looking actor or actress that's playing you, and behind them a heapy jumble of stuff. So there's a table and a camel on the table, and there's a motorbike in a bath and a pile of sand in the middle of the living room, and all this, an aeroplane on top, and it's all higgledy-piggledy jumbled. We go, we can't make sense of this chaos. Here's a higgledy-piggledy heap. Luckily, because we're in a theatre then, some stagehands would come on, wearing appropriate brown overalls and a hard hat, obviously, and begin to do carpentry, and they would divide this round circular stage into sets or zones, and each set would have its own lighting, its own furniture, its own decor, perhaps, its own sort of mood. And each set represents a different thing that the actor or actress that's playing your eye does through their life. So, for example, there's a set for the home, a set for travel, a set for work, perhaps one for friends, right? And as the actor or actress that's playing you does these different things through their lives, they move from one set to another, to another, to another. So, for example, they wake up in the morning in the home set, and then they travel to work in the travelling set, and then when they arrive at work, they're in the working environment set, and then perhaps they see their friends in the evening, so they go to the social one. And as the actor or actress goes from one set to the other, they have this peculiar chameleon-like thing, where their perception of reality is coloured by what they find. So in one set, there is hope. And whenever that person does that activity that means that they are in the region of hope, everything flows, everything rolls along, everything's kind of, really cool all the time. But there's another one that has the expectation of difficulty. And every time they go into that one, but there's the expectation of difficulty, it's always a problem. It never goes well. They knew it wouldn't be right in the first place. So they avoid it if they can, but sometimes you can't, you know. And it's like that. So these different fields of life experience have colours and qualities. Some of them appear to be empty of planets, but there are the signs of the zodiac around the outside, like footlights in a theatre. They also illuminate something about the area of life. So a person without any planets in the 6 houses of health and body doesn't mean you haven't got a body. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. A person who has no planets in the 3rd house, it doesn't mean you haven't got a mind, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to listen to this and comprehend it. Presuming you comprehending and listening, of course, and not just switched off already. So, the thing is that the houses denote fields of life experience. So a planet shows what we do, a sign shows how we go about doing what we do, the manner or style in which we do it, and the house position shows the area of life in which that particular activity or behaviour is most likely to be observed. The angular relationships of these different parts are shown by the lines in the middle of the chart. Some of them are connected with each other harmoniously, some of them discordantly, some of them work together, some of them are in opposite modes, right? So by looking at the angular relationships between these things, we can tell, for example, fairly quickly if a person's conscious desires are in a good working relationship with their unconscious desires. So if a person wants to stop smoking, will it be easy? Will it be difficult? How will it go? And by analysing and looking at all of these things, it does take time. You can begin to build up a very complex and sophisticated picture of what a person is, or at least who they could be, and the different versions of themselves that they could be. And that's the point. It's not you're stuck with one thing, because all of these things are symbols and they are variations of meaning. So what I'm going to do in the next part now is just talk a little bit about how I go about doing this, maybe with an example or two of what people have found from having the experience of their entire chart being expressed and articulated in a totality. Okay, see you in a moment.